Come on in, come on in. Thank you all so much for being here. Welcome back to the Wives Club. Let me get my notes together as you all come on in and settle in. Happy Sunday to you, and let us see what are we going to be reacting to today, and then I'll give you a proper introduction. I should have been prepared, but I just wrapped up a coaching session, so I want to get all of my notes together. Thank you all for being here with me tonight. I know if you're into football, it's football season, so hopefully I'm not taking you away from anything, or you can watch the replay. No problem. Next Level's been waiting for this one. All right. I'm overdue. I think the stream was last week or week before, and I have my notes. It was a pretty intense one, so forgive me, y'all, for looking. I'm just scrolling through my clips. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started, everybody. Come on in. Hello, and thank you all so much for being here. Welcome to the Wives Club. Oh, let me change this. This is the wrong color. Why is it blue? The Wives Club was created in 2021. I'll just leave it on the blue. The Wives Club was created in 2021 when I booked a session with the late great Kevin Samuels. I'm Maggie. For anybody who doesn't know, you all may know me for my cooking channel. I make food and femininity content. But what you may not know about me is in 2021, I did book a session with Kevin Samuels. I was one of the ones who wanted to talk to him one-on-one. It wasn't for me. I always like to say I am happily average, but I did feel convicted whenever he would say, "Where are the older women to teach the young?" And you all know I have two boys, was married for 10 years. And I always say, that modern woman mindset got the best of me. And the marriage ended in divorce. And so second time around, I learned my lesson. And I've made a lot of changes. And I tried to pay it forward and help, especially the younger women who want marriage and family. So in that session with Mr. Kevin Samuels, I asked him if I could create a community, and we started in his Patreon group, and I want to be out here with everybody. And what we would do is once a week when he would stream throughout the week, we would react to it based on our own lived experience and talk about what we've learned from it and what we can do better. And so I want to continue that here with you all. So thank you so much for being here. We got Next Level. He says, "Good evening, ladies. I've been out of pocket, but welcome to the holy house of femininity, and blessings to the chat." So thank you so much. Thank you to everybody watching on TikTok and on Instagram. I'll try to hop around. Thank you, Kyle. I see your comment. I appreciate that. And Aju says, "I need advice about my relationship, please." All right. If you want to go ahead and put your question in the chat, I'll try and react to it, or respond to it. But what I'm going to react to today is Kevin Samuels had a clip. No, it was actually a montage that the family still puts together. And this one, y'all know his titles. Godfather asks, "Is it really hard, or is it just you?" And, Kevin was very polarizing. We all remember him, hopefully fondly. I definitely remember him fondly. And I will say in that session, one-on-one, he was very gracious. And I knew the calling on his life was much bigger than one person. And so I'm trying to do my small part to help. Drea says, "Are you working directly with single older clients?" I do have a coaching program. I don't really advertise it that much, but if you go to Teachable Moments with Maggie, I don't even know if it's still up there. Since you're on, you can email me, Maggie, the substitute teacher @gmail.com, and I'll send you the link to my coaching program. All right. So Kyle says, "Is this women only?" Well, as a woman, I'll have questions tonight. I love it. As an older woman, I'll be 50 next month. I'm not a man. I can't even raise a man. Some of you all know I'm a mom of two boys, and they're 16 and 18, and they actually went to live with their father for the high school years. because I can't raise a man. And our oldest is finishing up boot camp in the Marines. We're very proud of him. And the youngest is planning to go to the Air Force after that. My ex-husband's family is military. So um, the internet is open to whoever wants to hear it. I just hope that whatever I share from my lived experience will help the women. But, I know I have a lot of men who watch my content and who say it's helpful to them. But I don't speak to men. I don't feel like I have a place to tell men what to do or what they should do. I believe the men should teach the men and the older women should teach the younger women. So that's why I'm here. All right. So thank you all so much for all of your questions. All right, so let me see if Aju, I haven't seen your question yet, so I'm going to go ahead and start with my content. And if you're still around at the end, then I will try to help you. But I want to go ahead and get started. All right, everybody. So like I said, this episode was Godfather Asks, is it really hard or is it just you? So this was a collection of some moments. He had a monologue, and then in this episode, he had two women call in. One was younger and I think looking for relationship advice, and the other one was a little bit older and she worked at a bridal shop. So that one was interesting. All right. So my first clip here, Kevin asked the question in the monologue, is it challenging? Oh, it's challenging for the men that you want. So if you all saw my content with Lucy yesterday, I believe it was, a lot of women are complaining very publicly that, men don't approach. The truth is, ladies, if we're being honest, it's the men that we want that don't approach. And then you have to ask yourself, why is it that the men that I want don't want me? Hello, Mr. Salty. Good evening to you. My name is Maggie. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so yes, ladies, it's very true. There are certain characteristics in men that we respect and admire, and it's not all men, and men know that. That's why they go out into the world to build themselves, to go conquer, to, build that business or get that promotion or, advance up, whatever the ranks are. And so once a man has developed himself and he has something to offer, he is attractive to a lot of women. So we have to understand and accept that, ladies, and realize that, yes, we are going to have to compete early and often. But, if you start early and if you make yourself useful and valuable, it never goes away, but you earn a position that puts you in the lead. All right. So it is going to be a challenge. Let's see. Kevin said, I can't remember. I think he said that the women that he was consulting with were telling him that they have limited options. And this is kind of in line with what I said yesterday, ladies. The presumption of that comment, if I'm being very honest, is we expect it to be easy. We expect to just come out here and cherry pick the top men that we want. And it doesn't work that way. Men know that the women that they want aren't a dime a dozen. They're going to have to, beat out the other men, as an analogy, to get and keep that woman. Well, ladies, we are going to have to compete to get and keep the men that we want. And so if you find yourself getting attraction but never staying around for the long term, you do not have the skills yet to be able to keep and maintain the type of relationship that you want with the men that you want. All right. So let's stop saying there's limited options. This is not a buffet. You're not just supposed to have it your way, Burger King. That's not how this works. And I see this a lot with attractive women who had it easy. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you are blessed with beauty, it is a blessing. But I always say I'm a late bloomer. I'm happily average, but that means I had to work for it. And so that work ethic has maintained me, now into my almost 50s, because those soft skills and learning how to work with and cooperate with and support and respect and admire and humble yourself before a man, that never ages. All right. So let's stop thinking that the options are just supposed to be whatever we want for as long as we want it. He gave some statistics because you all know Kevin is the king of statistics. And he said that the top 20% of women want the top 10% of men. I'm going to say it's probably, a lot more than that. I'd say, anywhere from 50 to 80% of women. Something about us thinks, we can get that 1%, 5%, 10% man. If you can, then you would have him. It's a lot of work, but the point is that, ladies, if the statistics that Kevin said in this episode hold true, then the top 20% of women want the top 10% of men, right? So that means for every one man, there are two women that want him. We would love those odds. Some of us live in cities like Atlanta where it's like 15 to 1. But you're not supposed to be forever dating, ladies. You have a short window when you have the most leverage, and you're supposed to use that leverage to be able to get and keep the relationship that you want. It's not supposed to be sprinkled around and spread around, and then you're wondering why your superpowers don't work anymore. Next Level says, jewels are already being dropped. Thank you so much. We have Drea here. She says, what education are you recommending for women to acquire soft skills? I'm so glad that you asked. Lucy and I just wrapped up the finishing school, and this isn't to promote what we do. I'm actually going to talk about how I got into finishing school. We do offer an 8-week course. It's closed for enrollment now, but we will open it again around the holidays for next year. So stay tuned. We only do it twice a year. But, to be very honest, ladies, you will have to seek it out. So I do appreciate you asking. But when you say, what education are you recommending for soft skills? Respectfully, that means you're already behind. Because, growing up in a traditional family, I was able to see the way my mom took care of my dad and see the way my dad provided for her, and learned by watching, this is what it means, to be a wife. It's not just my Barbie dream house and I have Ken and the pool and the car and all of that, right? So what I would say you can start doing immediately is start observing. We talk a lot about this in the finishing school. We just blaze through life, like oblivious. So look at the couples that you admire and respect. Look at how those wives talk to their husbands. Listen, especially when a man starts talking about his woman or his wife in an admirable way. That is a wealth of information, ladies, where you could say, aha, I could learn something here. Unfortunately, a lot of women look at it like, she's no better than me, but that keeps you stuck, right? Soft skills, I love the finishing school. It doesn't have to be mine. There's all kind of classes that you can take. I would also say, and then I'm going to get back to the content, find a way to be of service. I think this is a huge gap that a lot of modern women have. The modern world is going to have you thinking it's all about you. But a wife is a helpmate. If you want to be married, you are to be a support system to the type of man that you want. Now, if you want to do 50-50, or if you want to be the man in the relationship, none of this applies to you. But if you want a man to cover you for the lifetime, you have to be an asset and of value to him. You have to be able to help him with things that he either can't do himself or doesn't want to do himself. All right. So that's what I would say. Hopefully that is helpful. All right, so let us continue on. So we have acknowledged, like Kevin said in this episode, there's only certain men that we're going to consider. And ladies, if you're being very honest with yourself, more often than we probably care to admit, not me, because I've been in a relationship since I was 18, but for those of you all who have had a lot of men approach you, you've probably given out a lot more no's than you've given yeses. So just know that you are being approached. It just may not be by the men that you want, because there's only certain men that we will consider. And I will agree, there's only certain men that we should consider. Again, I don't believe I have a place to talk to men, but ladies, I don't understand why women come on the internet and complain about the men that are useless and wasting their time. Why are you with him? Like Mr. President says, my man, why are you with a man that won't do nothing for you? So you have to really ask yourself, are you choosing wisely? That's our job. They offer what they can. We either accept with grace or we exit with grace. All right. So if you want a captain, if you want a capitan, if you want the type of man that, Kevin Samuels referred to as high value, I know that triggers a lot of people, but it just is what it is. All people have value, yes. But some people bring more value to a relationship than others, hence the term high value, and there are less of them than the general population. Drea says, how long is the finishing school? It is 8 weeks. And then we have an in-person graduation in the spring. And the cost is $550. It comes with a lot of bonuses and lifetime access. But stay tuned. We may do a special around Black Friday. You were thinking about Skillshare. Maybe they have some soft skills there. I'm not as familiar. But yes, you can learn from anywhere. It doesn't have to be with me. Okay. Let's see. So Kevin said, captains don't expect 50-50. And for me, what stands out with this one is a lot of times women will lead with their accomplishments, especially us professional women. This is the trap that we fall into. I'll, raise my hand. I got this big job, big degree, big bonuses, all of that. But what I lost sight of is as I would age, and especially once the children come, you don't want to be grinding like that anymore, ladies. I'm telling you, don't believe me? Wait until your 30s. Don't believe them? Wait until your 40s. In the finishing school we just started, all of our students who are in their 30s are saying, I wish I knew this when I was in my 20s. So if we have any young women listening, do not postpone this if this is what you want. Okay, so he was making the point, captains don't expect 50-50. So ladies, the type of men that we admire and respect, they don't want their woman to be working just as hard as they are, just as long as they are. And I want to be very explicit here, because am I saying you're going to sit at home and not work? No, you're not going to be a pampered princess. But every man who has a woman that is of value to him, he is looking to lighten her load. I tell you all the time, Mr. President sat me down on the second date and told me, this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to retire you early. I'm going to, do this. I'm going to take care of this. You won't have to worry about any of this. This is what I expect, and this is what my timeline is. So do I work now? Yes, I need to work. We still have one minor child, but, he said 2027 is my year, so I'll be able to retire early. So that's just my example. But, ladies, you're not going to have a husband that wants you to do that same back-breaking job. That's why a man is a man and a woman is a woman. That's why I'm always howling at the moon that we are not equal. We are equally valued, but we are very, very different. All right, so keep that in mind. All right, so he said we need to study what our competition does. This is another thing that you can do immediately. Once you humble yourself and realize, okay, I don't know everything. All right, I keep choosing poorly. Okay, I keep starting over. I keep having the same breakups and having the same issues. When you look at women that are in the type of relationships that you want to be in, or maybe the women that are beating you out, maybe the competition, what are they doing? Now, I have no problem humbling myself and approaching someone and saying, you know what, I really wanted to learn, I'm making this up, how to garden, and I can't keep anything alive. Can I buy you a cup of coffee and maybe you can give me some basics so I can get started? That type of networking is useful in so many other areas. So if you're struggling in the relationship space, nobody needs to know your business. Humble yourself and find somebody that you can ask, maybe to be a mentee, and they'll mentor you. Now, it's not going to be all the time, and take away from what they have going on. But those of us who are in happy relationships really want others to be in happy relationships too. All right. So let us continue. The next thing that I have in my notes, Kevin said, and he used other language, but You can't sleep your way to the top. And this is one of the things that makes me really sad when I look at the example that is being set for our young women. We have one skill and one skill only that women think they need to perfect. You will hear men say it's pretty much the same with everybody. So if all you know how to do is be an acrobat, then that's going to be a fun amusement park ride, and then they will dismount and find something else that's more reliable and serious. So yes, of course, intimacy and being in love and expressing that with your husband is a beautiful thing, but he's not going to marry you for the sex. They can get that anywhere. They can pay for it, or these days women are just giving it away. All right. So when you think of the value that you add, when you think of what people have complimented you on, if it's just the physical, ladies, that's not a good thing. All right. Not if you want a real relationship. All right, so the next part of the episode, and I have linked the episode as I always do in the description. This one was a little bit longer. It was like an hour and 45 minutes. So if you all want to watch it without my commentary, you absolutely can. We have a question on Instagram from DK. He says, why are the older women telling the younger women to go get a degree and take care of yourself? And they got a man at home taking care of them and paying all the bills. I think that's the problem. Kevin Samuels talked a lot about this. He called it the Order 66. And I wish I knew the answer, but I don't know. There's something in us as women where we got ours and everybody else can fend for themselves. And it really pains me to see older women misguiding younger women. We had our time in the sun, right? We've had our, I had my big church wedding. If I wasn't able to keep that together, I'm not entitled to another one and another one and another one. And I sure as heck shouldn't make it, throw rocks in the path of someone else that's trying to get better. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe if you all know, you can share in the chat. But I think there has been a lie that has been sold. And I'll try and do my best to take a stab at answering this. Ladies, if you're going to be in a relationship or if you're going to have a husband, it's not going to be for free. It's going to cost you. You're going to have to work on it and you're going to have to maintain. And Kevin said that in this episode, some of us have that rebel spirit. If you don't like having structure, some women don't like having boundaries. Some women don't like being told, I don't want you to wear that. I don't want you to spend that. I don't want you hanging out with them. I don't want you going to that place. Whatever it is, some women don't like that. And they think the grass is greener on the other side. And the greener grass is, I want my own money. I want to do my own thing. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. And so women say that, but some of them say that from the comfort of their cage. And you all know there is a very popular wife that is making the rounds that is talking about how miserable she is. But I find it very interesting that she is saying that as a kept woman. So that may be the reason why they try to poison younger women. And I always say, choose wisely. Not everybody is meant for marriage. Not everybody is a wife, and it's not suited for everyone. So you have to know that about yourself. But one of the things that I've learned is the women that want to get married, get married. The women that want to have families, have families. The other ones who kind of do whatever they want to do for as long as they want to do it, and now they're ready, it wasn't your first choice, and the men know that. Next level says, many baby boomer women saw what they thought was their mothers being held down. They didn't want to repeat that. And when the choice between men and government assistant was posed, many women chose the government. Ugh. Yeah. That's really sad. That's really sad. Well, ladies, all of us will choose. So choose wisely. Thank you for that next level. Let's continue on. All right. So the next part of this episode, Kevin was talking about a woman, and I usually don't name names, but he did say this in this episode. He was talking about Anna Bay and her program called Woman of Elegance. And I remember this episode like it was yesterday because, like you, um, Drea, I was trying to be the best version of myself for my man. And I wanted to soften. I had a lot of that, senior executive energy that I remember my ex husband was like, I don't work for you. And I didn't know I was coming across that way. And I knew my man was not going to have that. So I had to get a handle on it. And so I signed up for Women of Elegance and I took Anna Bay's coaching and several others, but you can learn from everybody. So anyway, Kevin was saying, this is an example of a woman. She's from another community, Russian, Swedish, something like that. But, woman from another community who wanted a different outcome. And so she was willing to do the work. Now, you all know Kevin Samuels was a um, image consultant. He was an image consultant, so the appearance was paramount to him. And ladies, it's true. Men are visual. Now, is that the only thing? No. That's going to bring you to the front of the line for them to examine other things. So hopefully you have some substance about you. But one of the things she talked about was how she changed her diet. Now, I have to say, y'all know I struggle with this area, but we can't just say, oh, you just got to like me for me, and I'm going to do whatever I want and eat whatever I want and drink and take shots every day and not move my body, and I'm just as good as the next girl. No, you are not. No, I am not. All right. So we have to be realistic with ourselves. And if you have a man that's willing to work with you, take him seriously. All right. So Kevin was asking, in the monologue, are we having those same type of conversations? Now, here's the thing, ladies. You can audit the type of conversations that you have in your circle. You can ask yourself when you're around your girlfriends, the time that you spend, are you all just kind of shooting the breeze and talking about, I don't know what people talk about, housewives and the latest rap song and, doing the dance moves and, all of the foolishness? Yes, there's entertainment. Yes, there's ways to have fun, but your competition is being strategic. Those of us who want marriage and family are networking with other wives, are showing up in places where we can be seen in the type of light that makes the man that we want say, I can imagine her being a part of my family. She seems really good with kids. Wow, she didn't really have to, but she took time to, help that older man or that older woman. This is a woman that really, it's more than just about her. So anyway, ask yourself, the company that you keep, is it just the fun stuff? Is it just the foolishness? Do your friends or your entertainment or anything that you consume, is it improving you? Because I'm going to tell you, ladies, if it's not making you better, it's actually making you worse because time is passing by and you're just standing still, which means the days go by, but you have not improved. And then you become one of these 30-year-old and 40-year-old women, like you talked about, that when you talk to them, it's like talking to a teenager, like you haven't matured at all. What have you been doing, right? Next level says, ladies, it starts with the looks, but it doesn't end there. Thank you for saying that from the man's perspective. And I'm going to tell you, like my man, men know, ladies, and I know you all want to get work done and do whatever you want to do to enhance yourself, but men don't expect a 50-year-old woman to have a 20-year-old woman's body, right? They understand a mature woman, things will change, but that's the beauty of when we give our best years to our husband, they appreciate that and they're much more accepting of the life changes. I don't think we're supposed to be out on the dating market well into our, 30s, 40s, and 50s when your body has changed and you're trying to suck it all in so you can compete with the 20-year-old. Let the 20-year-olds be 20-year-olds, all right? Drea has a question. She says, do you feel your elegance training was worth it? What you expected to get out of it? Yes, it was amazing. It was wonderful for me because I hadn't had that experience before. I did grow up in a traditional nuclear family, African family. My dad worked. My mom also worked, but I saw her, cook every day. That's why I cook every day. She was the feminine asset to his masculine brand. My dad was a disciplinarian. We didn't have much. We're immigrants, but that family unit was the foundation. And, I've shared with you all, my man is a VP for a very big company, somebody that I grew up with. So he knew me in my youth. And I wanted him, but he wanted to go live his life. And so life brought us back together. And that's why I had a second chance with my first love. Because I asked him, if the roles were reversed and you wanted me and I wasn't ready, would I still be here? And the answer was no. So, ladies, lightning doesn't strike twice if you don't take it seriously. All right. It's very difficult. But when life brought us back together, he sat me down and he had 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year goals. And I was just like, I'm just happy to be here. And one of his goals was to be one of the black VPs in Atlanta. And he's now surpassed that. But I started thinking, I was like, we were kids, but he's a man now. And he's going to be in those circles and be around those people and move in different kind of spaces. And if I want to be with him, I need to represent him well. And I have a silly side, and that's not always appropriate. And I wanted to be the type of woman that he would be proud of. And so I quietly enrolled, and the rest is history. But it was just the beginning, so hopefully that helps. All right, so ladies, ask yourself, the company that you keep, the friends that you have, what type of conversations are you all having? Are you talking about getting better along with the fun stuff, or is it just the fun stuff? Okay. So Kevin said, and his words, not mine, he said, even Anna Bay, this Swedish Russian woman that I took the classes with, he said she has average looks, but he said she has an above average attitude. And ladies, that's the biggest thing that we can fix immediately with everybody, not only the men that we want. The way we approach life, the way we show gratitude, the way we humble ourselves. Are you showing up as somebody who's just, it's supposed to be, your way? Or are you open? Are you coachable? Can anybody teach you anything? Can anybody correct you? Can anybody tell you no? So she realized that she didn't have what it takes to be in the circle she wanted to be in. So she did some work, and then she started teaching others. I was her student, and now I'm teaching others. All right. So her attitude, and this is where we can learn from our competition. A man does not want to go out into the world and fight to live another day, or live to fight another day and then come home and fight with his woman. And the man that you want is just not going to do it. He's just going to leave you there to figure it out. My man told me, I'm going to tell you one time in a row and let you figure it out. And I was like, oh my God, who is he talking to? Does he know who I am? Yes, he does, and does not care. All right. Next level says men will go down in looks to go up in cooperation. Thank you for saying that. And it's true, ladies. A lot of times when you see, average woman like me with somebody like that, people are like, what does he see in her? Cooperation, support system, positivity, affection, nurturing, consideration, respect. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. All right. So your attitude needs to be above average. And I'll say this, as somebody who is average, whatever your flaws are, and someone who struggles with their weight, ladies, if you have strikes against you, then you need to really overperform in those other areas. All right. So I may not be a size 8 or 6 or whatever, but I can be the most feminine woman, the most agreeable woman, the most positive, the most supporting. All right. Drea has another question. She says, how do you get out of survival mode when you're single, when it takes funds to keep yourself up, and even more so if you are leveling up? Yes, you do have to invest in it. I will say this, I'll give you the macro answer and then the micro answer. Ladies, we all have disposable income. Some of us have a lot, some of us have a little, but we spend on what we want to. Now, if you're just barely scraping by to make ends meet, that's different. But if we really look at our spending, do we need that DoorDash? Do we need that daily Starbucks? Do we need those new shoes, that new dress, whatever it is? There is a time in life when you have to sacrifice. I remember, being married, our first vacations were to Six Flags because that's what we could afford. Now I'm able to travel internationally, but I'm almost 50. All right. So When you are in survival mode, you have to survive. You just have to. But if you're single and young enough, I'm going to take the example from what Kevin used to tell the men. He used to tell the men minimum 60 hours a week. Are you doing a second job? Is there any other skill that you can do? Me, I have a YouTube channel, it's monetized. I have courses and coaching. I work. So this is just, um, giving back. It's not about income for me. But do you have any other skills that could be monetized? I just helped someone with their resume. Do you, can you, gosh, I don't know, dog sit, babysit, clean houses, whatever you can do. We do what we want to do, right? So I would just say, look at your spending, look at what you are spending money on that you don't have to. And then find ways to make some extra income. A lot of these courses, a few $100s, you could do, the holidays are coming up. Maybe you could take a seasonal job and make that extra money. All right. So hopefully that is helpful. Let us continue on. Okay. So there was a part in this episode where Kevin was talking about Anna Bay, and she was talking in one of her videos about, she needed to lose some weight. She wanted to lose about 30 pounds. I think that was like 18 kilos or something in the European standard. But she was saying, how she would eat celery and, do some things that were really, strict to help her reach her goals, because she wanted to move in certain circles. And that is the expectation. You need to be able to slip into that little black dress. And so Kevin was just asking the question, have you ever heard our women say, you know what, I'm eating celery? And it's not so much about the celery, but what are you willing to do? What are all of us willing to do to sacrifice to get the outcomes that we want? All right. Because it is going to be a sacrifice. It is going to take work. But Kevin said in this episode, would you rather eat celery or work? Meaning that thing that you're holding on to so tightly. Maybe it's that slick mouth that you have. You always got to have the last word. Maybe it's that bragging or that competition that you do. You love putting people in their place and making them feel small. Maybe it's eating too much. Maybe you want to go out at all hours of the night and don't ask me any questions. Whatever that thing is that you're holding on to, fine. Have it your way. But would you rather have that thing, or would you rather have the life with a husband that will provide for you and work every day to try and sit you down so you can be more available to him and less available to the workforce? Your choice, ladies. You can choose whatever you like. It's a free country. Okay. The next thing I have in my notes, Kevin said the intimacy part. That's standard. Ladies, we have to stop focusing on that. That's part of a loving relationship, understood. But that's not what you should lead with ever, because we all lead with the best part of us. So if you're throwing it in their face, that means it goes downhill from here. All right. So be very careful about that. Save that for somebody that's actually worth it. All right. And men will tell you, it's kind of crude to think about, but from woman to woman, they say it's not that different. All right. So don't let that be the only thing you have to offer. All right. Let us continue. So, I think the next part is when the young woman called in, and I can't remember her age, but he was talking to her about relationships, as he always does. And it was a difficult conversation. But this was a woman who wanted a relationship, but according to Kevin, she had a lazy approach. Her attitude was kind of like, I just want somebody to find me. It's not how it works, ladies, especially in this new modern age when so many of you have embarrassed men publicly. So many of you have told them, leave me alone, don't talk to me, don't look at me, it's icky, you're a creep, all of that. We talked about that yesterday. A lot of men are just focusing on making themselves better instead of trying to get to know you better. All right. So this is not duck, duck, goose. Nobody's going to come tap you on the head and say, where have you been all of my life? You have to be where they are And you have to be doing the things that makes them want to get to know you. And just sitting there and looking pretty is probably not it. All right. So you're not going to be found. You're going to have to put some effort into this because the man that you want put a lot of effort into becoming who you want to be with. All right. So he goes on in the conversation with this young woman, and she was saying, her complaints about marriage. She's never been married before. And Kevin asked her a question. He said, who is marriage better for? Excuse me. Is marriage better for men or is marriage better for women? So, ladies, you can ask yourselves, which one of us want it more? And the answer is it's better for us women because we know we're going to have that provider, protector, that someone to, care for us and make sure that he takes the heavy load and we do the lighter things. And the good news is, good men want their women to be, in a peaceful place. So men take the risk. Men are the ones that offer, their livelihood, offer to face the danger and send us out to safety. So we have to realize that. And that's another thing we can do to humble ourselves. My man told me this week, he said, don't approach the king without a gift. And that gift can be as simple as, I understand. So understand what they go through and show appreciation for that. All right. So Kevin went on to tell her because she had her complaints and he was asking her questions and she really wasn't doing anything about getting the outcome that she wanted. And he said, modern women are lazy. And I hate to say it, ladies, but it's true. When you look at modern women now, what we complain about compared to what other women did without complaints, what other women in other cultures are willing to do without complaints. And nobody's going to force you to do anything you don't want to do. But, again, circling back to the first point, we just want it to be easy pickings. That's not how this works. You're not going to get a partner for life, a soulmate, a husband. You're not going to get that type of leader just sitting around doing nothing. Because as soon as he brings you into his world, that's when the work begins. It begins with the ring. All right. So she was going on to say how being in a relationship with a man is an emotional toll. Well, ladies, believe me, being with us takes a lot out of our men too. Okay. So let's not think so highly of ourselves. But this is another area where a lot of times young women who really don't have their own experience to think of, we're just regurgitating what we saw on TV or saw somebody crashing out on the internet or what our mothers or aunties or grandmothers or some other bitter woman is telling you they went through. So now that's your experience. Don't let that happen to you, ladies. A man is a wonderful thing. And a woman is a wonderful thing, right? A good, healthy relationship makes you better. We come together for a purpose to do this thing called life together so that it's easier instead of doing it alone. Now, I'm going to say this again, ladies. If you complain about the men that you have had experience with just drug you down and they were horrible, all the labels we hear, he was controlling, he was a narcissist, he had mommy issues, he had, all these other things. It actually reflects on you. Why did you allow that? Why did you tolerate that? Why is that all that you have access to? Why are the good men repelled by you? Just got to ask yourself. All right. So he asked her, do men bring pain? And this is another thing. Look, we've all had our heart broken. I went through a terrible divorce, but learn from it what I could do better. And now, like I said, my ex-husband and I co-parent really well. The boys actually live with their father and they're the better for it, right? But he started pressing her with questions. So the lesson learned here, ladies, is you just can't be saying stuff. You just can't be doing stuff. These tropes that we repeat, certain percent of men are locked up, certain percent of men are down low, certain percent of men, they don't want women or whatever it is. Men are going to, number one, take offense to that, and they're going to press you to explain yourself. All right. So he started asking her questions. How How do men bring pain to you? And then she started beatboxing, and the truth was she didn't really have any experience of her own. And yes, relationships have their ups and downs. There's no guarantee, but ladies, there's no guarantee for the men either. They don't know if you're going to betray their trust and embarrass them all over the internet and take half and go spend it on another man, but yet they try. So appreciate the try. All right. So he was asking her, what about being with a man is so bad? She couldn't answer him. And so he asked her, what do you like about men? And I'm embarrassed to say the first thing she said is, I like being intimate with men. I'm going to leave that one right there, ladies. Again, if that's what you lead with, that shows the type of relationships that you have had. That's all that you've been doing. And it's fun to you. It's like a sport. You have perfected it. But then what? Obviously, when people get tired of playing that sport, they go off to do other things. And then you're starting over time and time again. So if you want something serious, take it serious. All the fun stuff will come once you lock down your relationship first. All right. So he asked her, would you want someone to speak about your son the same way you're talking about men, so casually, like they're disposable, like they cause you all this grief that you can't qualify? And he asked her, would you want someone to talk about your son that way? And it always gets me when you bring up, boys, because I can honestly say, my biggest sponsor asked me this week, he said, Maggie, do you think you would have the same perspective if you had girls instead of boys? And I long and pray for the day that I have a daughter-in-law and some grandbabies. But until then, I'm a boy mom. I've done all the sports and scouts and camping and all of that, but I've seen how boys develop. And I've listened to other men, including their father and my man, tell me, you know what, this is totally normal. There's nothing wrong with them. They don't need anything. Just let them be boys. That experience has forever changed me. And it's very humbling for me to see what men go through. So ladies, believe me, you would not trade places with them. So Kevin asked her another question. After all that this you've said about why relationships are so difficult, why should a man be excited to be with you or women like you? So ladies, you're going to have to ask yourself, whatever you're offering, whatever you're bringing to the table, what is it about that a man would look at and say, now that is a wife, that is a woman that I want to have? That is she available? What is it about you that makes men inquire about keeping you around, not just having you for fun? All right. He asked her some more questions, and one of the things he asked her, she made a comment about the difficulty being with a man. She said, well, there's a lot to risk. There's a lot that we risk being with a man. He said, name them. And again, ladies, you can't just be out here saying stuff. The men that we admire and respect are going to press you for details and for answers. So if you're not used to answering a direct question with a direct answer, if you're used to tap dancing all around it and then it's everybody else's fault but yours, if you're used to turning on the waterworks and using your emotions to get out of a sticky situation, you will never pass the test with a resolute man. So he asked her, what do you have to risk? And she was just like, well, he could be a mama's boy. And he said, okay, what else? And she said, I don't really have anything else. And that was kind of embarrassing for her. And ladies, it's really hard to retract. Once you've said it, you can't really unring that bell. So here's a tip. Before you just say stuff, take a moment. I'll even say, you know what, let me think about that. Let me give this one some thought. I don't want to speak out of turn. There's nothing wrong with saying, I respect you enough to give a thoughtful answer. Or, you know what, I don't really mean that. Let me take that one back. All right. Next level says, ladies, remember the sacrifice you made for that degree? Oh boy, here it comes. Bring that energy to the undertaking of being chosen by the man you say that you want. That's a big one, ladies. I hear this all the time from Mr. President, and he gets really upset about it. His words, Southern boy, Southern man, you do what you want to do. Ladies, we have no problem finding out what schools are going to give us the degrees that we want, getting all the financial aid. When those concert tickets go on sale, you stay up on that computer waiting for those tickets. All of the latest dance moves and whatever's trending on the internet, when the new purse or shoes, or don't even get me started on your elaborate beauty routines, all of these makeup tutorials. My point is this: look at all the effort that we put into the things that are important to us. So, um, the men look at that and they compare the effort level that you put into all of that. And then if you want to just sit back and say, I don't know how to do this relationship thing, they're going to say, oh, okay, I see what this is. You don't really take this seriously. You don't really want it that bad. I want mine really bad. All right. So I work really hard for it. All right. Healed and Fine says, absolutely. Why did you entertain that? If you're speaking about my comment earlier, um, thank you for that. If it's a question, let me know the context, please. Okay, so he pressed her for answers, and then she said, I can't name one. And he said, ladies, you need to stand by what comes out of your mouth. I think I've beat that one enough. So that's something that you can change immediately. That's something that I had to work on. I used to speak and think at the same time and just hope the words would land. I had to really work on my communication, especially with a man who does not have time to waste. I had to really think about it. And maybe that means taking a pause and giving a thoughtful answer, or slowing down, or wait for it, speaking less. We got watch how you move. His hair looks great. Thank you. It's just a roller set, but I appreciate that. Thank you for the compliment. Okay. So she couldn't identify what the risks were for her, not anything substantial. So he told her 100% of marriages are initiated by men. Now, look, I know there are some outliers. Some of you women are out here buying rings, or if you're in a different relationship, I can't speak to that. But for your traditional relationship, the man offers a proposal of marriage. The men are the ones that choose, ladies. So, for no other reason, you want him to choose you. I want my man to choose me. So, we have to give them a reason to. Just like you go up for that job and you want to be that candidate that is selected at the end of the hiring process, you want to be the last one standing. The man has to say, okay, I've seen enough. I want to make you my own. Okay. So 100% of marriages are initiated by men. And he said in this episode, 70% of divorces are initiated by women. So men are asking, but then we get there and we're like, I don't like it here. I'm not happy. Their house is bigger. Their grass is greener. Their car is faster. Their vacations are nicer. You know, I want out of this. And so men know that, and that now they're asking themselves, is it worth the risk? So that's a huge risk, especially because men don't get out of it without it costing them something, and it costs them their livelihood, which is years they're not going to get back. That's the reason why a lot of them are saying, you know what, this is not for me. So, ladies, when you have a man that is willing to give you a chance and is really serious about marriage and family or committed relationships, you better take him seriously, because it will get better, but I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. All right. Kevin said that, modern women are not serious because we don't have a consequence. And honestly, it's true. A lot of modern women resemble children in the way that we behave, resemble spoiled children who have gotten whatever they wanted. Nobody could tell them anything. Nobody's ever disciplined them. So now they're out here running amok. And you're like, whose kid is that? How many times have we seen modern women, crashing out on the internet or behaving badly in public? And, people handle things differently, but ladies, life is going to teach you. If nobody's told you no, if everything was always perfect, if you never did anything wrong, if no man that you've ever been with has ever required anything of you, that is not helping you. Number one, he didn't plan to keep you around for very long. Once he was done with you, you're out here looking again. And And no man is going to have a woman that's just useless. That's just arm candy. That's very, very rare. And even those women are expected to perform. All right. So be very careful what you wish for. So, yes, there's going to be consequences. Life is teaching all of us, life is humbling all of us. If you haven't chosen wisely, is it impossible? No. Is it a lot harder? Yes. Kevin also said in this episode, modern women make horrible wives. That hurts because there was a time when we were prepared for the future that we would want, or we were better prepared, right? Nothing is perfect, but we were better prepared. So many women get to the age of maturity and they have no idea what to do with the man. They really just think, I'm just supposed to sit here. And ladies, if that's what you think it is, you're very much behind. A wife is a job. A wife is a role. A wife is my man calls it chief of staff. You may not be doing everything, but you make sure everything is getting done. Our job is to make sure he doesn't have to worry about anything. It's a well-oiled machine back here. He can go out there and conquer because we're going to benefit from it when he does, right? So what skills do you have to be able to run a functioning home, to be able to immerse yourself in his family, represent him in public, keep his secrets protected, all of those things, raise children, that are passed on, his legacy and uh, his way of thinking and his goals. And there's a word I'm thinking of. Um, the priorities. Can you do any of that? Or are you just pretty? All right. Next level says, wives are valued counsel. Absolutely. Ladies, when you have the ear of your man, it's not often, but when they let you in and they run stuff by you and ask you what you think, oh my gosh, that's like gold. Because a lot of the men that we want, they move in silence. A lot of times I find out about stuff after the fact, and that is okay. All right. So he asked her, what were you taught to do for a man? Ask yourself, ladies, what do you think the man that you wants from his woman? You got a laundry list of stuff that you want. What does he want? Have you validated that with any men that you admire and respect? Or is this just your fantasy? All right. The truth is a lot of women weren't really taught to do anything for a man. Her response was, I saw my aunt cook. So this young lady was raised by her aunt. I don't know what happened with her mother and father. And her aunt was married for a time. So it was her aunt and her aunt's husband. And her answer was, I saw my aunt cook. Because he asked her, did you cook? Did you do anything? Were you trained up? I was babysitting starting age 11. By age 13, I was doing the whole family's laundry, cleaning the house from top to bottom, like all of that stuff, and being in sports and having good grades and all of that. Watching my mom, the way she took care of my dad when he came home from work and made sure my brother and I were out of his way until he was able to relax. And, just all of those things you don't know you're being taught, but that's the environment that you grow up in. So that's all that you know. So what environment did you all grow up in and what do you know? And the sad thing is, if you were raised by a single woman, you just didn't see it. So that means you are not prepared. And you have to accept that and don't get offended by it. It's just the truth. So you have some catching up to do if you want to compete. Oh, watch how you move, says, like Kevin also spoke on us. Black men take control of our image and influence. I believe the way most of them look at us is in a negative perspective. He did talk a lot about the ethnic image, and we can change that, ladies. We have to change that. All right. Next level says, sadly, many modern women do not respect men, regardless of their sacrifice, status, position, or income level. Aisha Curry is a prime example. Yeah, this one really, such a shame. I would say this, I don't like to talk about people, but I just find it very interesting that she complains from her position of comfort. I find it interesting that she didn't say, "Oh no," after the first baby. No, I am not doing this. Get me out of here. I want to go be my own actor. I want to headline my own movies. I want to have my own brand. No, she sat right there and had second baby, third baby, fourth baby. She has a life that so many women would dream for. Yet and still, she complains while still enjoying it. I think that's interesting. Okay, so back to our caller. She says, I saw my aunt cook, which means she didn't really do it herself. She watched somebody else do it. And ladies, watching it is not the same as doing it. You have to understand, if you want to be in a relationship, that requires relationship skills. And relationship skills are like a muscle. They can get stronger and they can atrophy if they're not being used. So if you're out here chasing your career, fine, your choice. If you're out here having a rotation, okay, your choice, but none of that is preparing you for the relationship that you're ultimately going to want. And you're going to find yourself out of sorts and scrambling to make it work in the bewitching hour. And that's not attractive. All right. So relationship skills come from doing it. So I always advise women, only date the men that you see are husband material. There's no guarantee that it's going to work out, but at least it puts you in practice in listening to a man, understanding how they move, watching how disciplined and consistent they are, getting used to the uneventful, which is boring. Understanding that sometimes it's going to be a no. You're not always going to get your way. Those are some things that are going to make you much more agreeable if you have to start over with somebody else. You're not starting over completely green. So when he asked her about that, why didn't you cook for your, I'll just call him uncle? This little girl fixed her mouth to say, well, that's not my husband. And Kevin shot right back at her, but he provided for you. So this little girl was not that man's blood. It was her aunt's husband. Yet and still, he took her in to his home and provided for her. She said, they were able to go on trips and vacations, and she's obviously, here talking to Kevin Samuel, so she's had some schooling and, roof over her head and all of that. And the disrespect to say that's not my husband, but yet this man is taking from what he could keep to himself and giving it to you, providing for you. So this is what men are talking about, ladies. This is why men don't want another man's kids. You all know my story, but this is why, because no good deed goes unpunished. I cook for everybody. Inside the house, outside the house, I serve and take care of anybody. If I can do something to be useful to make your day a little bit better, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to sit here and say, not my problem. Now, of course, my kids and my man come first, but again, do you have a heart of service at all, or is it going to be only about you? Next level says, another disrespectful, entitled modern woman. Yeah, I cringed when she said that. I really did. Okay. So Kevin kicked her off the stream as he did, and he spoke to the audience and he said, gentlemen, this is me talking to the men like Kevin did. He just basically said, ladies, he called her a hidden rebel. He said, be very wary of these chameleons. You all know they call us chameleons if how you present yourself is not who you really are. And there were several times in this conversation where he pressed her for answers and she just kind of, was kind of flippant about whatever, not my problem. Excuse me. Yet you want somebody to come and make your life better while you do nothing. Not going to happen. So he said, leave these women alone. These are the worst kind. Even if they show up with their soft voice and looking attractive, they have a rebellious spirit. So, that's a lot of what we work on in the finishing school. If you take any type of personal development, the outside is easy. You can hire, you can get it all done, do whatever you want to. But if your core, if who you are really, like he used to say, fresh face out of the shower, if that's a wretched woman, just consider yourself forever single. All right. Kevin told the men, judge them by what they do, not what they say. And this has been a hard lesson for me too, because women will approach me and they'll say, Maggie, I need help in this area. And I start asking questions and I find out they're not telling the whole truth, or there's something they're leaving out that makes them look better. And ultimately, I get upset with that because I'm spending time trying to help you. You don't have to ask for help, and I don't have to give it, but I'm trying to be helpful. But you're not being honest. You're not saying, okay, this is what's really going on. We're talking all the way around it. So when that comes to a man, especially because men move with intention and they don't waste time on foolishness. So you're going to have one, maybe two times in a row to play that game. They're going to leave you where you are because they're like, this is who she is. So 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when I really know, okay, what's going on, she's going to have her flowery version of it to make sure she looks good. Not doing that. All right. Judge them by what they do. So, ladies, it doesn't matter what you say. The men that we want are looking for what we do. All right. So, he told her, you don't have any wife training. Basically, you're not prepared. You want a husband, but you're not a wife. You weren't even raised to be a wife to then say, you know what? I knew better. I just didn't do better. He told her, a housewife is not a lazy person. He called her lazy. All right. We've seen this before. Women who just want to sit down and have the man make everything magically delicious and you just benefit from everything. That's not how it works. Ladies, being a wife, being a housewife, being a stay at home mom, being a working mom, being the woman of the house is a full time job. So don't enter into it lightly thinking you're just going to sit around all day and look cute. Women who take care of the home so that their husband can be more productive outside of the home, or even those of us who work but maybe work part-time or work remote or work in a way where we can give our best to the family, you realize it's a full-time job. All right? So let's continue. This one is a little bit longer, but I want to make sure I give you all my notes. Okay. So, Kevin continued on. He said it's a negotiation, but ladies, it's true. Relationships, just like conversations, it's a give and take, right? It's really important if you are interested in a relationship, you need to know what you want and you need to know what you have to offer. Just like a job interview, because men who are serious about relationships, like I told you, mine sat me down and said, this is what I'm going to do for you. This is the timeline. This is what you can expect from me. This is what you don't have to worry about, all of that. And then put it on me. So if you don't really know what your value add is, take some time to really think about that. I had a coaching session with somebody before this, and we took the long way around the mountain to find out, you really want to change this aspect of your life completely. You should have said that. You really need to take some time to think about, okay, what do I want? Kevin always used to ask this, what do I want my life to look like at 35, 45, 55? And everything you do now needs to be in service of the life that you want to live when you're my age. I am living the life that I am now at almost 50 because I prioritized relationship young, had my children, raised them, and now I'm going to sail into the second half, happy and content. I'm making decisions now so that as I age and 60 and 70, life will be comfort instead of a struggle. All right. So make sure you're prepared for that because men take it seriously. It is a business transaction, if you will. It's risky. There's benefits for both. It should be mutually beneficial, but what you don't want to do is just be blinking fast and slow when a man says, okay, well, what do you want? What are you looking for? What does that look like? And you just, ladies, you don't show up as somebody serious. All right. They'll move on and find somebody who is, because our competition will tell you exactly what they want and what they're ready to do for it. All right. So we don't want the men to leave completely. They've started, leaving. And I feel bad for, those of you all that are serious because it's not going to look good for us when we're left to our devices. I don't think you all really want that. All right. The next thing Kevin said, or that I have a note about, is we need to be fit over fine. And we have to talk about the elephant in the room. Kevin talked often about this because this is an epidemic in our community. And I raise my hand. I could stand to lose some weight. But the point that I see when I hear this one, we need to be fit over fine. I think in our community, we have prioritized, the outside and looking good, and you all have your hair and your nails and your lashes and all this stuff that men don't want anyway. They want a natural woman, but you didn't ask me that. But we have focused on being so fine, all these ridiculous filters. Women don't even look like women anymore. You see them in person and you're like, oh my God, is that you? You're sucking it in. I'm going to do a photo shoot for my 50th birthday. And the photographer told me, oh, don't worry. I do AI editing or AI airbrushing. They can snatch your waist. They can remove the double chin. They can do all that stuff now. So we focus so much on being fine. Ladies, if you are an average beauty, work on your fitness. And, ladies, that could just mean making some changes and being consistent. If you sit around all day, get up and move your body. I'm the last one to tell you. Y'all know I struggle. But cook your meals at home instead of eating out all the time. Be mindful of it. Cut the sugar, whatever it is that you're struggling with. I will tell you this, men will give you credit for you being aware of it and making steps towards progress. It doesn't have to be perfect, but what they don't want to have to be is the one telling you, and you're like, I'm fine. I watched, I love travel stuff. I watched a cruise review, and the woman was just talking about, well, I'm a big back, so I was at the buffet and I was getting this and this and this, and I was just thinking to myself, you're talking about it, and she had two illegitimate children, and no man in sight, but you're talking about it like this is just how it is. No, ladies, there's some things that you can change. You can be better if you want to. All right. Fit over fine. Rodney says goals are reached by determining the price and paying them in advance. That's so true. And ladies, one of the things you're going to realize about men, the men that we want, ambitious men, high value men, since we're talking about Kevin, they have goals that supersede ours. And I'm telling you, once you get to this age, find me another 50-year-old woman that is ready to do another 20 years hitting the bricks. My man will tell you, yeah, I got about 20 more in me. And I'm like, what? Y'all, I am the farthest from it. And most women will start to feel that in their 30s. You want to work differently. You want to work from home, maybe work part-time. You're not really trying to go, burn the candle at both ends. Your 40s, that's when women really start to complain. 50 and above, it's really sad to see women having to work so hard because they didn't plan well. Watch How You Move says it's an underlying understanding that was understood between the two of the sexes that has now, if I may say, has been broken. No respect for no one or anything self-seen. I'm sorry, I'm not understanding, but thank you for your comment. Next level says many wives of high value men are the first ones up and the last ones to go to bed. She prioritizes him in exchange for a life of comfort. This right here, I'm telling you, here's another thing y'all can do. You can drive through the parts of your city where, the high value men live. You're not going to see their wives sitting around being pampered princesses. They are up. I'm telling you, even I don't live with my man, but when we travel or if we're together, I am up. I make sure his breakfast is the way that he wants it. I'm ironing clothes. I'm doing whatever I have to do. I remember a woman that and when he's here, he doesn't lift a finger. I mean, he does stuff with the car and around the house, but y'all see me cooking and packing lunches, whatever I can do. I have an office for him to go do his work, all of that. But I remember a woman that I was coaching. She had a man that was interested in her. And in her mind, she was like, yeah, I should be in a cul-de-sac. He's in a high rise. This is the life that she wanted. So he invites her over and she spends the night. And I asked her, what happened? And she said, he got up and made breakfast the next morning. I wanted to throw both of my shoes. I said, "What did you do?" And she said, "I just laid in the bed and waited for him to bring breakfast." She is single till this day. So, ladies, the men that we want, all of their interaction with us is a test. And if you think that you can just sit in your life of comfort, they will make life comfortable for you. You will work, but you will work for the family that you all create. It's not going to be whatever you think you're seeing on social media. That is not it, because it's actually very disrespectful to a man who's up at the crack of dawn. I love watching these videos where women are packing lunches for their blue collar husbands, and he's up at 4, I'm up at 4. If I'm so fortunate to get remarried, I promise you, I won't be laying in the bed. I'll be up when he's up. And when he's gone, I may take a nap during the day, but it is a lot of work. And those of us who are built for it, we actually yearn for that. We want to be useful. We want to be the apple of his eye. Rodney says fitness is the discipline of involving exercise and nutrition. That's basically what it is, ladies. I know you don't want to hear it, but eat less and move more. That is the truth. Neo Moses says, look forward to your interview with Jeff. I was just thinking about you being interviewed by you. Anything to look forward to what you'll say on Wednesday? So I'm going to be on Ask a Brother podcast with Jeff St. James Wednesday evening, I think 7 p.m. East Coast time. But he's interviewing me. I think he said he was going to send the questions in advance, but I have not received them. So I don't know what he's going to ask me. So I'll just answer honestly. So you all can find me, Maggie, the substitute teacher. I'll share once the date gets closer. Okay. So we need to be fit over fine, ladies. We need to win him over after we have the attention of his eyeballs. And this is a big thing that a lot of modern women miss, especially if you're attractive. My man will tell you, being attractive brings you to the front of the line to now take the test. But you're going to take that test. All right. So you better be ready. If you raised your hand and said, yes, I want to be considered first, know that it's coming your way. Right. And, I always say I'm happily average. I have to work harder. I have to work for it. But once I'm there, I'm able to maintain it. All right. So just be careful about that, ladies. You're still going to have to win him over if you want to keep him. Why should he keep you? Another thing that he criticized us on is he said, ladies, we don't know how to communicate with men. We don't know how to compliment men. It is so disheartening for me the way women talk to men, just kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it, but this ego and this pride that we have, it's almost like our compliments are a put down, and I don't like it. I actually saw this with our son. Marcus was, going off to the Marines, and there was a girl there. Maybe she was interested. And y'all know I was always cooking and taking food to the whole group. And she made a little slick comment, and she came over either to me or within my earshot. And she was like, yeah, he looked like he's spoiled. He looked like he get this all the time, or something like that, she said. And I was just kind of like, didn't say anything. And I know she was trying to flirt. And I know she was trying to, if she were being honest, she was actually probably trying to say, you know what, this is really nice. It's got to be great to have, a mom that not only cooks for you, but cooks for all of us. And this is not about me, but the way she said it, not only did it sit not well with me, I talked to Marcus about it one-on-one after, and I was like, tell me about this girl. And he just shook his head. He was like, Mom, I don't like that. So my point is, ladies, you're going to have to work on those soft skills, being able to take a compliment, being able to receive a compliment. What is wrong with saying, you know what, you look really sharp today. I like that color on you. Or congratulations on your promotion. I'm really impressed with how hard you've worked to get this accomplishment. What is wrong with humbling yourself and just giving credit where credit is due? Don't you want somebody to do that to you? If you've worked really hard on something or you've accomplished something, a weight loss goal or whatever it is, don't you want a man to give you a genuine compliment, or anyone? This is something that I see with a lot of women. You were never socialized to see men as valuable. They're just a tool to you. So you think you can talk to them any kind of way. And this is what I'm talking about. These are the behaviors that become habits. And then you meet a man that's like, okay, now this is the one. This is the one. This is, I've heard it. This is the high value man I've been dreaming of. This is who I'm supposed to be with. And you have no idea how to talk to him. You have no idea how to show respect to him because you've gotten away with little slick stuff because of the people that you've been around. And he's like, okay, I see what this is about. Next. All right. Who do we have here? We got pills, potions, and poison. She says there's always a test. Stay ready. Yes, right? Don't we say that? Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And ladies, it's true. And if you think it's not fair, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. But the men that we want, they are being tested all of the time. Every time that man hits the door, he's out there in the world. Someone's trying to take his business, his customers, his job, his woman, his car, his life, anything. Men are literally living to fight another day every single day. This is why the value that you can make a safe a space for them where they can drop their shoulders and just be at peace. Oh, you have no idea how much value that brings to them. But yeah, they're being tested every day. So they're going to test you every day. So get ready for it or just stay single. Rodney says it's one thing to learn how to get a man. It's another thing in learning how to keep your man. That's the key. Keep him. All right. It's been over a decade. Just because you can get a man, yeah, doesn't mean that you can keep a man. And this is the problem that a lot of modern women have. They just get, I don't know, DM after DM or date after date, or I know what y'all are doing now, swipe after swipe, swipe, no swiping. And they think it's leading towards something. And you're just treading water. You're not going anywhere because you don't really know what it means to be in a relationship. All right. Neo Moses says many ladies are missing this skill. If they are serious, they need to take femininity school. Many think just being a woman is enough, even in the church. Yeah, we have a lot of masculine women in the church too. Unfortunately, a lot of modern women now are just, they don't resemble women at all, if you ask me. All right. So we talked about knowing how to compliment, knowing how to show respect to a man. And I think, oh, this is a woman. I forgot this woman that called in. She was, I think, a 45-year-old divorcee. And she was kind of having some excuse as to why she's still single or whatever it is. And I think she said something like, no, it's hard out here. Back to the title, is it really hard or is it just you? Now, yes, it's going to be difficult. You're going to have to do some work. But he said, who complains about it being hard? Again, ladies, when you complain that something is hard, the 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 expectation is that it's not supposed to be. The expectation is that it's supposed to be easy. All right? Yes, getting the man that you want is going to be some work. Expect that. Lean into it, just like you lean into all that other stuff that you want. All right? So he asked her, are you a feminist? Are you a womanist? You can look up those definitions, but I will just say this, you can believe whatever you want to believe. Ultimately, all of us, some of the women that were singing the, I am woman, hear me roar the loudest when they get to a certain age in life, and all of us, it's different. Some of us learn early and say, woo, don't want to make that mistake again. Some of y'all are stubborn and your fist is up in the air and you're going to go down with the ship. But I would say 10 times out of 10, if you ask a woman and she's being honest, wouldn't you like to do this with a man that can relieve this burden from you? Wouldn't you want to do this thing called life with somebody who would actually make sure you're taken care of? 10 times out of 10, the answer is yes. All right. So feminist, womanist, if you think you're going to be a partner, if you think He's going to be the wind beneath your wings. There are relationships like that. It's not the relationship that you want, but none of this applies to you. All right. This is for women who want to be that helpmate. So she was complaining about her inability to find a man. And he told her, "You're not the one who finds a man." And I see this a lot with modern women. Whether you realize it or not, ladies, that is a very masculine trait. Going out on the hunt. I'm man hunting. I'm going to find me a man. That's not how it works. Men are the hunters. Men are the ones that observe us, and something about us strikes their interest and they start asking about us. But the thing is, men are going to wait for consistency and then they may approach. But, whether you believe in scripture or not, I was thinking about this earlier. The women that were selected, the Ruth and the Boaz, or the, is it Moses and Zipporah, and all these women, weren't they out working, whether they were watering camels or picking the fields or whatever they were doing? Weren't they being useful when they were found? And someone said, "Who is that? Who does she belong to? Who are her people?" All right. Hopefully that helps you. Rodney says, "If you want a sincere compliment, you should give a sincere compliment." Agreed. Goes back and forth, ladies. We got Nikki in the house. Nikki says, "So true." Neo Moses says, "Ladies who practice elegance versus vulgar thinking," don't even get me started on that, "tend to see more opportunities for healthy relationships. The vulgar minded are easy to spot and recognize based on their choice of attire and looks." Yeah, ladies, the way you present yourself speaks volumes. And I'll just say this. I'm not a stylist. I had to hire a stylist. But it's more about what you don't do, what you don't wear, what you don't practice. All right. There's not like a cookie cutter wardrobe. Men like what they like. So give your man what he likes. Neo Moses says, "Vulgarity, on the other hand, often seeks validation through exposure and noise. It may attract eyes for a moment, but it rarely earns respect or genuine love. True femininity isn't about hiding beauty. It's about channeling it with purpose and grace." Oh, thank you so much. Next Level for the $10, saying, "You kept composed, but you're still preaching." Thank you again for the stream tonight. Thank you for your sacrifice to see women change, grow, and get better. The doors of the church are now open. Thank you for the $10. I got my struggle fan here. I'm a woman of a particular age, but I appreciate that. Thank you for the compliment. It really is my calling to promote marriage and family and to help those women that maybe didn't have the example growing up, but they're doing everything in their power every day to have a better outcome. All right. Yes, biblical women were known by what they did. All right, ladies. So whether you believe or not, men don't want useless women. All right. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thank you, Nia Moses. Yes, ladies, all that attention seeking behavior, and whether or not you may say, "Oh, this is just how I express myself," it's still attention seeking behavior. All of the elaborate, just start from head to toe, the ridiculous hair, all these eyelashes, the tattoos, the long nails, the bejeweled everything. Honestly, you're like, as they say, a clanging cymbal. You just want people to look, and it's really a distraction, because I heard on a style podcast recently, if people remember your outfit, that means they don't remember you, or something like that. Now, I'm not saying to dress like a potato sack. Of course, I like nice things too, but really it is the quality of your character, especially as we age. Neo Moses says, "Will there be a Black Friday sale for your course for the ladies to gift?" Yes. I haven't consulted with Lucy, but we've done it the last 2 years. So I think it's Friday, November 28th. We usually do a 1 day, 50% off everything. So set your calendars. I will not announce it, but we will have a Black Friday sale. You can enroll for $50, 50% off. I'll open up all the courses that we have. We have several. And gentlemen, you can even gift it. When you go to checkout, you can put in her email address and it will send the welcome to her. All right. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm glad that that's helpful. Yes. All right. So Neo Moses says, a truly elegant woman walks with intention. Her modesty doesn't limit her beauty, it amplifies it. She understands that mystery, and grace are stronger than loudness and exposure. The more she guards her image, the more she guards her peace. I love that. That is very beautiful. Thank you so much. All right. Excuse me. So back to this woman who was 45, not married, trying to figure out what she wants to be when she grows up. And he told her, I think what we were saying is that, being on the hunt is a very masculine trait, ladies. I know some women now are asking out and, God forbid, proposing to men. Mm-mm. You can do that if you want to, but the man that you admire and respect will not accept that. No. You can show your interest. You can pay him a compliment. You can, say that you're interested, or, a little birdie can tell him. There's lots of feminine ways to say that you're interested, but, I am Jane. You are Tarzan. We go together now. That's not how this works, ladies. Okay. So Kevin said something in this episode with this woman. He said, women who marry late weren't raised to be wives. And I agree. And this is true. So, ladies, ask yourself, you've heard me say, and you can get upset if you want to, but, my cutoff really for taking women seriously about marriage and family is 28. And the reason why is, one, I was married at 25. So I don't know anything about going well into your 30s and 40s forever single. And now you're ready to be married. I cannot help you. All right. I just can't relate to you. But for me at 28, you've had 10 years of being an adult. You've had 10 years of being legal, of being grown, of being able to do whatever you want to do. And if no time in that decade did marriage and family bubble up to the top of the list, then it's just not a priority for you. So just understand you didn't make it a priority. So when you're ready, he's not going to make it a priority. Now you wait. And if somebody takes you seriously, you get the best that you can get. But you can't, rush to the finish line when you've been kicking the can, for however. That's not how this works. Okay. So Neil Moses says, thank you. I'll be blessing you in the future before the sale for your hard work, Maggie. Oh, thank you so much. You all are too kind. Okay. So it's true, ladies, those of us who prioritize marriage and family, somehow we figure out a way to get it done sooner than later, because dating and having all these experiences, it's not attractive to women who see themselves as wives and mothers. Starting all over, getting to know somebody, having breakup, you're not supposed to have a long string of history. It damages you. You all have heard Lucy say that. We're not built for the rejection. We're not built to do this over and over again, right? Oh, thank you, Paolo, on Instagram. I appreciate you so much. Oh, we have Dave on TikTok that says, do you think body count matters? I honestly think it does for men because it is tied to her judgment. Now, I don't know if you're talking about body count. Thank you for the question. You can specify if you want to, but of course it matters for women because, like I was just saying, we are not built for the rejection, ladies. We are not built to attach and detach multiple times. Men are different, even their, apparatus is different. So this is why I say we are not equal. We are equally valued, but we are very different. And I was watching, I think River TV, and Cam Newton is going viral now by saying, he needs to know. Think what you want to, but he said something in that clip that is very true. A man wants a woman that is inexperienced. That is more desirable. But we women want our men to be experienced. That is desirable. That's just the nature. Get mad if you want to. I believe in nature. I believe in science. That is how we are built. That is how we are different. So yes, it matters. Okay, so he said by 45, you should know what you want. And this is another example of a woman. He asked her, what do you want? And she started beatboxing and tap dancing around the answer. Ladies, that's not a good sign. When a man asks you, When he seriously says, okay, what are you looking for? What do you want? What does success look like to you? You need to be prepared with an answer. And he told her, you're not talking like a 45-year-old. And I see this a lot, that arrested development. You talk to women. I talked to one today and I said, it seems like you're regressing. Yeah, well, I don't know. What? What are you doing? You'll never survive a resolute man if you don't have the confidence to stand on, as they say, business. Now, you can do that in a feminine way, but ladies, like my man, whew, a woman went up to him, at one of our events, and she was like, how can I get a man like you? She was, closer to my age, but she was kind of doing this like, Valley girl, Barbie kind of thing. He flat out told her, you need to act your age. And she was floored. I think she was quiet the rest of the night, but yeah, be careful, ladies, especially with these men. All right. So um, he asked her something interesting, I think, about her profile picture. And she said, oh, because I think he might have asked her to rate herself. You all know how Kevin does. And she said, oh, that picture is 10 years old, because she rated herself highly, like most women do. And he said, beautiful women don't have 10-year-old pictures. Now, again, I'm not here to set any beauty standards. I love being happily average. All right. But the truth is, ladies, humbling yourself to realize, my best years as far as youth and beauty, I'm still trying to hold on to that. That ship has sailed. I think it's much more attractive, especially if you're a mature woman, to own that and to be a beautiful representation of your age. Okay, maybe a little bit fluffier, maybe a little bit more grays, maybe a little bit more wrinkles, but men of our age expect that. It really shows, like, what else are you trying to hide? And I think that's the problem with a lot of these dating apps, and people don't know how to communicate and meet people in person and talk and strike up a conversation and find out what you have in common. It's really disarming, when you can be just, as he said, fresh face. Okay, maybe not out of the shower, but just show up as yourself. And the men who like you will like you. And the ones who won't. Not everybody is going to like you. All you need is one. All you need is one. Dun, da, 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 da. Okay, focus, Maggie. So at this point in the conversation, Kevin moved on to, I think it was Tinder. He was on Tinder. He said he was on these dating apps as, how do you say, like research. Like I'm always tasting recipes for research. So he was swiping through some pictures on the Tinder app. I don't know how this works. I've never been on Tinder, but he was looking at some women that I guess were coming up in his feed, and he was looking at their facial expressions. Ladies, this is another thing that you can fix immediately. And I have heard women say, I don't like to smile. Okay, have it your way, Burger King. But, one of the things that I tell the ladies in the finishing school, we have evolved as humans to be able to determine that quickly if somebody is friend or foe. Back when we were hunters and gatherers, you had to be able to see somebody coming across the horizon and understand if the men need to get the weapons and the women need to guard the children, or if this is somebody, coming bearing greetings. So my point is this, ladies, that welcoming look instead of that resting mad face does a lot to disarm people and say, you know what? It's safe here. You can have a conversation with me. You can talk to me. Now, if you just want to sit back and snarl or sneer or, look like, I'm going to do something to you, that's your choice. I mean, honestly, nobody cares. It's your life. But he said, and I have in my notes, a snarl is 50-50 at best, meaning you're never going to get the type of man that you would admire and respect showing him the worst of you. And that goes for everything. All right. So you're going to have to put some effort into it. Do you always feel like smiling? No, I smile naturally, but even when I don't, I have to figure out how to self-soothe, get myself together. And when my man reaches out to me, Be that warm and welcoming space for him. All right. Rodney says our words speak of our maturity, intelligence, and personal beliefs, amongst other traits. Yes, words mean so much. Absolutely. He said a man is not going to pay for that. So if you want the type of provider man and you look like go far away, you're going to get what you ask for, ladies. All right. So he ended that conversation again, talking to the men and saying, listen, don't let these women lie to you. Ugh, it hurts me to say that. But yeah, he was basically letting the men know what to watch out for. So, ladies, ask yourself if you see any of these behaviors in what you've done, if you haven't gotten the outcomes that you want, if you find yourself starting over and over and you can't seem to get out of your own way, ask yourself, could I be sabotaging my own success? All right. So, he talked about beauty. Kevin talked about beauty a lot. He was an image consultant. He said, beauty costs, and men know that. Men know that if they want that, what do they call it, the baddie, it's going to cost them money. And women, especially young women, know that too. That's when they're able to be, spoiled and flued out and all this stuff that women are doing. But the point is, you have that youth and beauty to use as leverage, to use as currency to lock something down for the lifetime. You're not supposed to be spreading it around to everybody, Tom, Dick, and Harry, and then you got nothing to show for the gift that you had. All right. So the last woman that called in was the wedding shop owner. So a woman who was a little bit, or maybe a lot rough around the edges, called in. And, it always comes down to, well, why are you single? People would call in for whatever they wanted to say. They wanted to put their 2 cents in. And he'd be, do you have a relationship? You got a man? And she was single. All right. Rodney says, if the eyes are the windows to the soul, the face is the door to being initially welcomed or rejected. Yes, ladies. And it's even in your voice. When my man calls me on the phone, like I light up when he reaches out to me in every way possible, every single time. All right. So, this woman who has a bridal shop is single. And she said that she had gotten some feedback because Kevin did ask her, have any of your exes told you what it was like to be with you? Isn't that a question? Ask yourselves, ladies. And I'm going to tell you, I think I told the finishing school yesterday, I'm very animated. You all know I'm an extrovert. And sometimes I go back and I watch my streams on mute. I'm like, wow, there's a lot going on there. I'm very expressive. And Mr. President actually said, yeah, babe, you're a lot. You're actually kind of scary to people who don't know you. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so harsh, the way he talks to me. But, we have to be able to take the feedback and be self-aware. Okay. So anyway, she said she has been told that she is intimidating. And Kevin said, what is intimidating about you? And this is something I hear a lot with women who maybe they got a little business, maybe they got a little degree, maybe they got a little management job, you got a lanyard, you got a name tag, and you think men are intimidated by you. And I'm not going to say exactly what he said, but he said fun boys are intimidated by success. Ladies, we have to realize that the men that we admire and respect, their vision, their life goals are decades beyond ours. Men are thinking about their children's children. They're thinking about generations. I remember even in some executive training that I did, we were asked, how many years do you think a CEO plans for a company? And so we're thinking, I don't know, maybe like 5 to 7 years. That sounds about right. Maybe a 10-year plan. And the consultants told us, CEOs think about where is this company going to be 100 years from now. It blew my mind. So you can, extrapolate that to men that are ambitious, men that are thinking about legacy and building something and challenging the world and making a name for themselves. If you watch little boys, that superhero trait that they have, men want to live forever. So ladies, this little job that you have, The men that you want, they're not intimidated by that. Now, I'm not trying to rain on your parade. An accomplishment is an accomplishment, but most women, if we're being honest, if you ask me what my 3 year, 5 year, 10 year goals are, I take it 1 year at a time, maybe two. I jest. Of course, I have things in place, but it takes my man to kind of help me plan for, no, you don't want to be doing that when you're 60. We're going to change some things so you don't have to do that. And honestly, we just take it one day at a time. All right. So be careful thinking that people are so intimidated by you. The men that we really want, they laugh at that. So he asked her, are you competitive for the type of men that you want? That's another thing, ladies. Stop talking about the men that you don't want. We get it. You don't want anybody dusty, crusty, musty, all this stuff that you say. Stop talking about it because it actually hurts you. If you drone on and on and on about the men that you don't want, the men that waste your time, the men that did you wrong, it really says something about you. Again, why did you entertain that? Why do they even have access to you? That is one of the things my man said. A girl was complaining to me about this man that she was with for 2 years, and then she went on and on about, well, he was a narcissist. And without even trying to, my man shut it down. He was like, why does a narcissist have access to you? And I was like, I'm just going to be quiet, sit down, and don't say nothing. All right. Rodney says, yes, so true. I'm thinking of providing for my great grandchildren. You see that, ladies? All right. So ask yourself, when you get around your girlfriends, do you all even talk about the children? What you want to do? How many of you women, especially if you're single, do you have college funds? Do you have savings in place? I have heard women say, oh, you're going to be on your own, talking about their own kids. Mama's going to live her life. So, again, just be very careful about thinking that, what you have going on is that impressive. All right. So Kevin asked her, are you competitive? And, this woman, she had that, boss babe complex. And he said, are you feminine? Are you submissive? And this is where it kind of went off the rails because he asked her about her femininity. And she said, I can be. And Kevin said, I can be is a no. And that's another thing, ladies. This is not a switch that you can turn off and on. You're going to have to decide. When I say choose wisely, it encompasses all of this. You're not just going to be able to do whatever you want to do, be wild and, free out here and then try to clean it up and shine it up. Men are not fools. So even that answer means that you're not really, but you'll, bite your lip and white knuckle through it if you have to. But men know if that's not really who you are at heart, it's only a matter of time before they see the real you. All right. So you got to really ask yourself, is this what I want? And if the answer is no, that's fine. Welcome to the workforce. That's totally fine. Rodney says, focus on what you want, not what you don't want. Absolutely. So ladies, if you want a type of relationship, if you want a type of outcome, everything you do needs to be looking towards that. Stop with the distractions. Stop wasting time that you don't have time to waste. Okay. So Kevin said, this is not a switch that you can turn off and on. She says, well, if I met the right guy. I've heard that one before. And he said something that really got to me. He said, high value men run away from that. Meaning, the ladies who complain, where are the men? The men don't approach me. There aren't any men, all this stuff. What you fail to realize is the nature of a man is to study you. A man studies before he makes a decision either way, right? They will categorize us into two camps, for fun or for long term. And if they see that inconsistency, we think because of our ego, we think, oh, I'm going to be however I want to be. You're not going to be able to tell me nothing. And then when I meet Mr. High Value, oh, yes, sir. Hello, sir. What can I do for you? The problem is once he sees you being that way and then you turn on a dime for him, it's already over because he knows, okay, that's who she really is. She thinks I'm stupid. So when men see that switch up, they avoid you That is why you don't see them. That is why you say they don't approach. That is why you believe they don't exist. It's because they don't exist to you. All right. So she goes on to say, well, I don't want to be submissive for just anyone. And you all know how Kevin is. He can be a little bit ruthless. He told her to look at her left wedding finger. Now, what can we take away from that? Yes, it was an insult, but ladies, if marriage and family is what you want and you haven't achieved that yet, you can't be out here calling the shots. He told her, he said, modern women think this is a game. Y'all really think that you're going to lay back and everything is going to unfold the way you want it. And then you're just going to be able to cherry pick and put your Barbie dream house together. That's not how this works. Again, remember, we talked a lot about women who are selected are found being useful. So, you know, if submission is important to the man that you want to be with, does he see you following instructions? Does he see you respecting other men? Does he see you considering others? Does he see you, kind of withholding every time you've got an opinion, it's got to come out of your mouth? Can you submit to anything? Does he see you, not going for seconds when, one serving will do? If he doesn't see that and that's what he wants, then he's going to disqualify you. So, yeah, you are going to have to do it with anybody at any time if that's really who you are. All right. So you just can't be out here reckless and think that it's going to sell. That no, I'll really get in line for you. Nobody else can tell me anything, but for you, because when that man is not there, his woman has to represent him. How are you going to represent him if someone else asks something of you, but he's got to be there to supervise you because you don't know how to act? They don't want that. All right. So Kevin told her submission is not a choice. That's just who you are. So again, ladies, it may be hard to hear, but you got to ask yourself, if you have been given feedback, if you've been told you got a mean streak, you got an attitude, you always got to say something. You always got to clap back or whatever it is. That's how you've been showing up. And you can ask yourself, is this helping me? If you have the outcome that you want, great. If you have a man that doesn't matter to him, oh, there she goes again. She's just talking. You won. None of this applies. But if you found yourself single and somebody tried to talk to you and you started running that mouth or whatever it is that gets you in trouble, ask yourself if it's worth it. Now, he asked her something that was just incredibly shocking because she said she's opinionated. And he said, why does anybody need to hear your opinion? That one even hurt me. Now, of course, ladies, you have opinions. We all have opinions, but opinions are like body parts. Everybody has one. Now, here's the thing. I have learned to listen a lot more. I know we women like to talk. I'm talking to you all now. But one of the things that you'll learn about the type of men that we want, they move in silence and they are men of few words. So when my man starts speaking, I zip it because I actually want to hear what he has to say because I know what I want to say. But men choose their words very carefully because their words have consequences. They're not just going to be saying stuff. Remember earlier when we said that woman, when he asked her questions, she was just like, it's a risk. He said, name one. And she couldn't name anything. Men don't act like that. Men don't just say stuff because it can get physical really quickly with them. All right. So when they say something, they mean it. Believe them. All right. Rodney says men are always looking for patterns of behavior from the women around them. Yeah. What we do consistently, ladies. So to wrap this up, Kevin told her, especially about her speech, it was very harsh. She was not warm. She was not welcoming. She was kind of defiant. She said, I don't want to submit to everybody. She had her own opinions. And there you go. You can live and die with your opinions. So Kevin said, when I was in training for sales, we learned to teach, tailor our conversation, and take control of the audience. So what does that mean, ladies? And that's basic, executive coaching. But you have to be able to read the room. You have to be able to know your audience. The way that I'm in here in the Wives Club is very different from if you all have seen my cooking content. It's silly. We have fun. But when you want to be taken seriously, you have to show up serious. I have so much respect for Mr. Kevin Samuels and the time that he, gave me, and the fact that he granted, that space to us, and he actually named it the Wives Club. And, as long as I'm here, I want to keep that memory alive. So you have to really think about who are you really and how are you showing up? Because Kevin closed this one out by saying, look, gentlemen, when you see these type of women, call them out and leave them alone. Meaning, ladies, the men that gave you chance after year in the past, they're not doing that anymore. I was told one time in a row. So that means, look, you need to figure it out quickly because I'm moving forward. The men that we want, they're not going to allow us to derail what they've built. We're attracted to them because they have been productive, because they have demonstrated that they can go out and go get it. And I'm telling you, no woman, no matter how beautiful you think you are or snatched you think you are, no woman is going to get in the way of that. They will just work around you and find someone else who will cooperate. All right. So, again, that was my reaction to this episode, Kevin. It's Godfather asks, is it really hard or is it just you? This was a long one. I hope it was helpful. The Kevin Samuels channel puts out a new video once a month. It's usually the first Friday of every month. And I try to get around to reacting to it, just like we used to do in the Wives Club. So, again, I'm Maggie, the substitute teacher. I make food and femininity content. So if you're interested in my cooking content, you can find that Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern. If you're interested in my relationship content with Lucy, you can find that Saturdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. But I still post every day, and I'm on your favorite platforms, all of them the same, Maggie, the substitute teacher. So again, ladies, seek it out. It is hard. You're going to have to do some work. It's going to cost you something. But I promise you, the benefit is so well worth it, especially after you've demonstrated your value for a while, meaning years. Um, that man is going to move heaven and earth to make life more comfortable for you. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about. All right. So start learning where you can, start small, look at the environment you have around you, audit the friends that you have, the conversations that you have. Ask yourself, was I raised in a way that prepared me for what I really want? And do a gap analysis. All right. My corporate hat is coming on. Where are you? What is the baseline? And where do you need to be? And start working towards that exclusively. So thank you so much. Rodney says, wonderful stream, Miss Maggie. Oh, thank you. I'm glad this was helpful. Thank you so much to everybody on Instagram. I know this one was long. I will clip it up and you all can feed on that if you like it. Wednesday, I will have the interview with Ask a Brother podcast. That will be on his channel. So make sure you all tune in over there. And thank you to our sponsor tonight, Next Level, for the $10. I appreciate you so much. My website is teachablemomentswithmaggie.com. If you're interested in any of my content or courses, whatever is available will be there. But stay tuned. We will have a Black Friday special, one day only. All right, so don't say I didn't warn you. All right, everybody. Until next time, I will see you all next month on the Wives Club. Thank you so much, everybody. I know it's late, so go ahead and enjoy your evening.